Right, good afternoon. Bob Robson, GW8AGI. This nostalgia bit came about because some X years ago, I can't even remember when it was, I borrowed some tapes from Grant Dixon, audio tapes, which I extracted some information from because I was giving a talk to the Royal Television Society in Cardiff on ATV. That was interesting. Had a shopping trolley with everything in it, the transmitter, receiver, cameras, aerials, you name it, all in one shopping trolley. And as I was going out, talking to the chief engineer, I said, I can do more with this trolley load than you can. Oh yeah, he said. I said, yeah. You've got this big studio, but you can't transmit your pictures. You have to give them to somebody else. I can transmit mine, and proved it to them all. Out of that came a producer who said, there's a film in that about ATV. I said, yeah, usual story. 2 years later, she knocked on the door with a cameraman, soundman in tow, and a producer. And the result was the film which is on the site, Bob and Brian Broadcasting. Interesting to make. Just stood in the shack, nattering away and filming. And they made a film out of it. But I got into television, amateur television, because I was in the Royal Air Force for an awful long time. In actual fact, talking to people, I joined the Royal Air Force about the same time Mike Barlow, who was the founder of the BATC, he was called up for his national service. So we had more or less parallel careers in that sense. So I can appreciate that when he was on guard duty in the guard room at night, this is how he managed to find the time to write his serial letters he used to send round. But I was interested in amateur radio before I went in the Air Force. And the reason I chose the Air Force was to get some training. It was the best electronics or radio training that was going. So fast forward to 1950 there, 56 I think it was. By this time I was on guided missiles, stuck on a place which if you went another half mile further, you finished up in the North Sea on the mouth of the Humber, a place called Northcote. And we had big radars there for the guided missiles, and they were quite powerful. And it was not politic to let anybody go up onto the aerial when it was transmitting to put a telescope on to see how they were tracking aircraft. So Marconi's fitted a TV camera with a 500mm lens, in which we could see, weather permitting, aircraft at about 20 miles away. And a nice display down in the control room. But when they parked the aerial, they used to swing it roughly northwest, and look at the beach at Cleethorpes, only 4 miles away. Very good in the summer. That awakened my interest in ATV. And, but I still didn't do a lot till my last posting in the Air Force was down to Western Super Sludge, or Super Mare as it should be called, and active on 2 meters, and started talking to GW8MTJ. And said, he mentioned that he was doing TV, so his other call sign was 6 MTJ. He managed to get the 2 call signs. Because in those days, if you remember, we had to have a separate license for television. Same way, one time we used to have a separate license to go mobile on sound. But that's life. But talking to him, he said, well, look, meet me at the Severn Bridge service area, and I'll give you some stuff. So met him there, and he hands over a 1-inch Vidicon and some scan coils and a copy of CQTV 65, which has got an article about how to build your own camera, which I did, and about 4 or 5 months later, I managed to send him a picture. It wasn't the best picture in the world. Big problem was lenses. In fact, I finished up using a projector lens to get there. But that started me really seriously into ATV. I, for my sins, chose to live in a valley, mainly because it was the only place I could find a decent house. And valleys and ATV don't go together. We've got ZZ, which is 12 miles away approximately, but we've got a sucking great lump of hill in the way. They put up an X-band repeater, and there's the corner of a hill in the way, so try as I might, I can't get to it. So I spend all my time building equipment for working on 12 volts, throw it in the back of the car, and go up on the top of the hill. More challenges, but as we always do in our hobby, we have a challenge, we meet it. Maybe not the best way, but we certainly do our best to meet all these challenges. So for me, it's been a marvelous journey learning to build. I have the feeling if I go up into my loft, I can still find my original 70-sem TV transmitter, which was built from QQ BA26s, that's right, with the triplers. That was a story in itself. I was wanted to get on 70 sems, which was the only band we could go on when I got my license. So I got a Pi transmitter given to me by a member of the Grimsby Club who happened to be the Pi engineer. Surprise. I wanted a tripler. Got out had a look in the ARRL handbook, which in those days used to be one of the Bibles. Oh, there's a nice one. There's a tripler using a 6J6. It says easy to produce. Well, I tried quarter wave lines, both sides, half wave lines, both sides, quarters and halves, mixed the lot together. I could get every frequency under the sun, but 70 sems. So I thought, well, the way around this. So I found a QQVO26, put that in. It took me 10 minutes to get it working on the frequency and everything else. And I was talking to, on 70 sems to G3NJF, testing the thing out, and he heard a crash. It was me throwing the 6J6 across the shack because I was so fed up with it. But there we are, that's it. So, yeah. So, the reason I'm standing here today is that, as I say, I had borrowed some tapes from Grant Dixon. And recently, the government being very generous in Wales, they said, you could have your loft insulation done for free. Well, mine had already been done. And they said, but oh, it's not thick enough, so we'll put more in for you for free. But you'll have to clear that area there. And so I was clearing the area, up come these tapes. So I rang Paul and said, I've got these tapes, are we interested? And he said, there's a talk in that, thank you. But I don't regret it. Unfortunately, I've got the tapes transferred on to WAV files now, and I think that Paul will agree that if I'm a mug enough, I will put all of the tapes we've got onto CDs if people are interested. So there we are. Paul, right. You have a go. Yeah. Your short sharp delay.
Right, we'll take
the radio.
Right, so change over here in the technology.
Oh, cobblers, the lid's come off. Back on.
Right, okay. I need assistance, I need PowerPoint.
Sorry,
oh, thank you, thanks, Bob. That was nearly a Laurel and Hardy moment, yeah. That was, wasn't it? Right. And here we go. Yes. Right, well, I want to talk about Michael Barlow. our club founder. Michael, I'm afraid I don't think I ever met him. I thought back through my years of membership of BATC to the early 70s, and I don't think I ever met him, unfortunately. Having listened to many of the tapes now that we've transcribed, I do feel that I know him in a little way. And what I've found is somebody who seems to be, A, technically very brilliant, but also B, very charismatic, very interesting fella. Unfortunately, he died relatively young in 1990, so obviously he can't be here today. But in a way, he's here today in spirit, as you will see as I come to some of the tapes. First of all, look at Michael and his invention, shall we say, of the BATC. Everybody here must know that the club was founded by Michael Barlow, and it started out with him sending out circular letters. This was before CQTV. He sent out circular letters which went round a small number of people who were interested in this television thing. And this developed into the idea of a magazine because he got fed up of actually sending the things round and not coming back. And the apocryphal story goes that the first CQTVs were knocked out on the guardroom typewriter. Having looked at the dates, and some of you will know that I'm these days a bit of an apprentice historian as well as an engineer, I've reached the conclusion that it's probably true, but not quite as strong a story as might first appear. I'm fairly certain that at least one of the CQTVs, part of it was knocked out on the guardroom typewriter, but certainly it wasn't a regular occurrence because his national service was relatively short, 18 months, and he was soon out of national service. And that's just a summary of what I've just said. He was soon out of the army, and he went up to Cambridge University. CQTV was then sort of just beginning as a proper publication with 20 members, a very small and select band of people, very able people. These were people of university training, people who had been in the army, in telecommunications, really quite an able intellectual band of people. Mike Barlow was the key, though. There was no committee, there were no subscriptions. Mike Barlow was the secretary, he was the editor, he was everything really, and it was this charismatic character that seemed to drive the BATC forward. So it goes from strength to strength, and in 1952 we get the first committee with a growing membership, and that first committee we see a couple of names there which may be familiar to some people. Doug Wheel is a particularly well-known, I think, because it was Doug Wheel who later produced the first proper printed CQTV. But back to Mike, he graduated from St John's College, Cambridge. I said he was a clever fella, he went to Cambridge. And after graduating from Cambridge, he joined the Marconi's Wireless Telegraph Co. as an apprentice. I believe he went into the transmitter development department where he actually met Don Reed. Don Reed was hoping to be here today, but unfortunately can't be. In 1954, we've got, I say, the first proper CQTV as a printed item rather than just this roneoed thing. And the next slide, I think you will...
Now, I've got...
Sorry, I meant to do that. I meant to go back one. Let's go back one. I won't go back. Anyway, the Roneo selection was... It's okay. The Roneo was retired, and the CQTV was by now a very well-known publication in the amateur television circles, and it was the Bible for learning about what to do and how to do it, and who all the names were important in the field. So in 1956 there was a convention, and this was a landmark convention in that Mike was the key organiser, and it made the appearance of the Matilda outside broadcast truck, which was put together by Ian Waters and a team at Pi. And there's a
I didn't have anybody putting it together myself.
Okay, your staff did it. But there were you were about to appear in this tape as interviewed by Mike Barlow, and you make that point clear actually that you were the man responsible for the licence. But I think you're a little modest in your involvement in it, if I may say so. So this is a recording that Mike made of the 1956 convention, and it was a series of interviews that he did with participants at the convention. Some of the audio quality is very poor. I managed to get most of it off. But this one's not bad, and it's a talk round by Ian of the Matilda. And there's some interesting little snippets, I think, so I'll let it hopefully...
Ian Waters with me here, and he's responsible for this wonderful outside broadcast band. Whose is the taxi, and could you describe it?
The taxi really belongs to three people. I think it's three. A syndicate called the Matilda Resurrection Syndicate. They bought it, I think, for a total price of a £5, a derelict somewhere in London. And it's been codged up and painted up, as you all have noticed, with all sorts of signs and slogans.
I think we should recall some of the signs. I noticed the front right-hand mudguard is marked Accident Black Spot.
And there's a notice on the back in 3 languages which announces that the speed is not known.
And I like the soda siphon top on the radiator cap.
And there's a large notice on the back which is Manchester Smiths, and I think Fiat, and an arrow pointing underneath.
And what I liked was the sign on the side which says, remains alive even when switched off, or something.
And over the top of the windscreen, 2 arrows that say port and starboard hanging up inside the bottle of sherry.
So, inside, Ian and his crew have fixed up in the back of this old London cab the camera control unit. On top is a wooden tripod carrying the... It is a Static-on camera.
It's a Static-on camera. I ought to explain that I'm not really responsible for this. I'm just supplying the license. I go to jail. But what actually happens is we have special permission from the post office to do this experiment, and the equipment, the actual camera equipment, is built by members of the, let's say, Pi Amateur Radio Society.
GHP might be allowed to say?
Yes, GHPY at Cambridge, Pi apprentices, and I supplied the RF equipment. There's quite a lot of lads in it. About 10 people have been involved, and I just have to coordinate it.
Well, it's a very fine effort. They've got a petrol generator on the luggage grid, and the poor chap who stands on the top whilst it's being driven along has to move a horizontal V aerial with the back of his head whilst focusing the camera at the front, trying to avoid the viewfinder hood from bashing him between the eyes, as far as I could see.
Well, the best bit of fun we had was when we took down a whole lot of telephone wires with the aerial and nearly fetched the camera operator off the roof. And on another occasion, the earth between the generator frame and the chassis came unhooked, and the camera operator kept getting packets off the camera and hopping up and down on the roof.
Very good. And it's the most magnificent panels and posters on the side of the thing saying British Amateur Television Club.
Roving Eye.
Roving Eye, yes, it's most excellent. Well, congratulations, Ian. It was a very fine effort. Thanks very much.
I do think the whole thing here was done more or less as a gimmick, as you see, but I do think there is scope here for an extension of it.
Well, that was... I hope it wasn't too embarrassing listening to yourself from all those years ago. Well, that was a fairly serious side to Mike, of doing these interviews at the 1956 convention. Just as an aside, it's interesting to see the quality of the picture that we were able to produce as a mobile at that time. I'm sure that the original picture was considerably better than that. But Mike, as I say, was a charismatic man. From what my researches I've gone into and people I've talked to, that not only did he have the ability, technical ability, he could actually get the technical points across in a meaningful and memorable way. But he was also very amusing. And this next clip, I think, it shows his humorous side, which I was amazed to find on this tape. I never thought that Mike Barlow would be anything like this. Try this one.
Consider my fall, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, consider my fall, consider my fall.
This record came to you by courtesy of Brampton Enterprises, Inc., the Wonder Writing Fluid, IMK, obtainable from all good stationers. Get a bottle today. It's terrific. It's superb. It's IMK, Inc.
And remember, friends, ink spelled backwards is knife. Well, we've just played through the tape recording that was made at the convention, and I'm sorry about the quality on the last few of the interviews there. But now it's the following Thursday evening. We've had no television for about 4 days, and Margaret, for one, is heartily pleased. We're sitting in the drawing room here at number 10 Baddow Place Avenue. Peter Burridge is being very sociable over there, reading a copy of the Amateur Cine World. Alongside of Miss Angela, our excellent receptionist. Peter, what's your name again? Mike Cox, yes, that's right. So he's sitting in, yes, we're getting set for another commercial, and he's sitting in a tub chair over there by the window in front of our very contemporary curtains, with the, are these things for fancy members? They can't be that size, but there's little, what baby ones, sticking down the back of his neck. And Margaret wearing a delicious green, well, it's a sort of shiny sackcloth. I don't know what you call it exactly. It's all we can afford on the BATC subscriptions, you know. It's the money. We can't get the money. Anyway, she's sitting in our Parker Knoll chair. There are advertisements left, right, and centre here. And she's, what are you knitting? Little things. Using wool. The old-fashioned, non-polyester, absolutely shrinkable, warm, 100% natural fibre wool. Spelled backwards, wool. Well, we thought you might like to know that the old Don Reed's ploughed through some of the facts and figures for the convention. We had 140 people there, and the turnover was £65, which is just under 10 shillings per person. Of the 140, about 75 were members and 65 were not by the end of the exhibition. I don't see what you've got to laugh about.
How many of those who were not at the end of the exhibition were before the exhibition?
No comments. Can't work that one out. Well, now I've got the visitors book here, and I was just looking for some of the more important people who've come along. We've had a chap, Dr. Kelly, VK7LL from Hobart, Tasmania. Any of you chaps down there in Australia want to know?
Well, I gave you a flavour of what Mike, I've just been told that apparently, unless I speak into this microphone for some reason, it's not going out on the internet. We don't quite know why. So I'll use this one as well. It gave you some idea of the lighter side of Mike's character. But he and Margaret and his young family decided to emigrate to Canada in 1957. And unfortunately, his abilities were lost to BATC by and large. He did keep in contact, but unfortunately that driving force that had seen BATC grow from nothing had to be handed over to other individuals. Unfortunately, we got people like Grant Dixon and Ian Waters and many others who were able to push the BATC forward in the way that Mike had intended. This final clip, I'll not say anything about it until after it's finished, but again, I think it's quite poignant in a way.
Well, this tape, I should explain, does in fact belong to Jack Mason, the original, that is. I don't know whether you're listening to the original or the copy made by Bill Stapleton, who in the end, unfortunately, was not able to get along to the convention. We did have a business meeting, as quick as we could possibly make it. Everybody said about 10 words. We had a treasurer's report. Are we solvent? Yes. And then he sat down again. That was more or less that. And we played the tape from PA0ZX and one or two other snippets of tape. But you overseas chappies really let us down there. Only of the overseas members, only PA0ZX sent in any tape in time. And that was played much to the appreciation of members. Sorry, I caught my finger in the spool there. Much to the appreciation of the members present. The BATC newsreel went down with great success. Poor old John Adams, the projectionist, was feeling very much under the weather, and I was having to sort of prop him up all the time. But we've got the sound on tape, and it started off in the professional style with the BBC Best Television March. No dum da 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 dum da 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 dum da dum ba bum ba bum ba bum ba bum ba bum. No charge for that. And we even had the odd advertisement in the middle, made by taking a strip of black film and punching successively larger holes in it with one of those leather hole punchers, so that you get a sort of flash of light, rather like the ITA advertisement openers. And we had a quick snippet of Margaret in the garden there, and we managed to get it exactly in sync so that it came up nicely saying, "She's lovely, she's gorgeous, she uses resin cord solder." which went down very well indeed. I'm still getting hiccups, I'm sorry. Is this leaning forward? I've got the recorder on the floor here on our wine red carpet with 405 white lines on it. I'm also getting cramp in the finger that's bending the tape recorder top down, so I'm going to cut this off very shortly and rewind it onto its correct spool and send it off to Bill Stapleton. So we'll say very good wishes to all from this end, and do send in a tape now. I've got a recorder. I can take it from you at 3 3/4, 7 1/2, or 15, and we'll endeavour to send you some back. And if you want to try sending me some pictures on tape, don't forget to wind down to about 100 lines scanning and do it at 15 inches a second, and we'll see what we can do. It's well worth a trial, I feel. And a few actual vision tapes would be rather good. So this is Mike Barlow here saying cheerio. Pete Burridge is still reading the Amateur Cineworld. Angela says, louder.
Cheerio.
Mike Cox says,
Hello, chaps.
and Margaret says, and Whiskey says, and just before I get pins and needles right down to the tip of my finger, cheerio. And Bill, don't waste too much tape on this. It's not really worth it, old son. G3 CVO stroke T Great Bado 430.3 megacycles with a sound accompaniment on 2 meters or 1980 kcs. Signing clear with all members. Wishing you a cheerio.
Now, what I think is quite poignant, it almost in some ways sounds like Mike is addressing us today, that this was a report. He had this idea that he was going to have an adjunct to CQTV in the form of reel-to-reel tape recordings that were passed around members, and they added a little bit to each onto the tape. So they've got this sort of composite group effort, which was in addition to CQTV. I don't think it ever really took off, but this particular one, with Mike sort of signing off like that, not long before he went off to Canada, I think, and in relation to today, where we're remembering his formation of the club, the founding of the club, it's quite poignant to think that he's addressing us in a way, and we can only be grateful to Mike Barlow for starting the club. So that's the final slide, in remembrance and appreciation of Mike Barlow. Thank you very much.